Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Sit back and listen to interviews, discussion about books, and anything else literary. There's always something or someone new on the show. Good evening, listeners, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Behind the books, honest voices, real stories. I'm Amy Shannon, and I'm pulling back the curtain, bringing you heartfelt and real conversations with storytellers and creatives that go beyond the books. You never know where the conversation will lead us, so let's find out. Tonight we have two authors with us. Thank you for joining us. Will you please introduce yourselves and let people know how they can contact you?
Sure. Thank you for inviting us, Amy. This is Michael McKinley and
Nancy Bell.
We are the founders of a publishing company called BookGo, and you can find us at www.bookgo.pub, P-U-B. And we have just released our first three books in November, and one of them Nancy and I wrote. So,
oh, great.
Yeah, it's a Vatican thriller. We've created the Vatican's Jane Bond because they have a spy agency. And so we thought, well, they need a Jane Bond. And so this is the first book about her.
Oh, great. What's the title of the book?
The Glamour of Evil. It's a line actually taken from
the Catholic baptismal ritual. When your godparents stand up on behalf of the child being baptized, they have to answer questions that the priest asks about Satan. And will you defend the child against Satan? And one of the ways they represent Satan in their questioning is, will you resist the glamour of evil? And I always thought that was a great way to think about evil, because it wasn't any kind of fang-toothed beast. It was a voluptuous, seductive, kind of creature that wanted to come over in the corner for a smooch and some bad things. So that's how we got the title.
That is really great. I can't wait to read that. And you said you have your own publishing company as well?
Yeah. So we created BookGo with a friend of ours, Charles Wardell.
And we also have his book.
We have his book out too, Come Up Big, which is an amazing story.
If he wants to be on the show, just let me know.
I'm sure he would.
He would love it.
He would love it. And we published another book by Alain Orozco and his twin sister Bianella Orozco de la Hoz, who wrote a book called Redeemed about they're born in Brooklyn and grew up in Miami. Their father was a Colombian drug dealer, and they had a childhood that is unimaginably painful, but they survived it, and they tell you in this book how they did. And hence the title Redeemed, because they both are, and they're lovely people, and I'm sure they'd love to come on your show too.
Oh, definitely.
But
we've got a lineup for you, Amy.
Great. The more the merrier.
What we wanted to do with our company, Amy, was we both worked a lot in the publishing business. I've written a few books, Nancy too. And we were getting frustrated, as many writers were, with the fact that the big publishers seem to be all about celebrity. And
how many followers you have.
And also, and you as an author know this too, I mean, also the fact that they fired most of their senior staff, replaced them with junior people, and reduced their support networks. So it's easier for that person to say no and keep their job than to risk it by saying yes. Yeah. So we just thought, well, why don't we create a publishing company that's friendly for writers and that will take something off the table. We will do the marketing for them. So we don't care if you have 0 TikTok followers or not on Instagram at all. We'll get you there. So that's what we do with BookGo. Is we take authors, everyone has the same advance we pay. We start at 25% royalty and we slide upwards. So if you sell 10,000, your royalty goes up even higher and it goes all the way up to 70%.
Right. And we're not just PR. We do it all. I'm an editor. That's sort of one of my first loves. I'm a developmental editor, and you're an editor too, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
You know the like. We dig into the words and we work closely with writers. So we do development as well as production. So we'll get a beautiful cover for your book. It'll be a handsome layout. We work with our writers closely to make sure that the book is exactly as they imagined or better. And we proceed like that with, we support writers and we think that's one of the best ways to really support readers.
Yeah. And we also, as Nancy said, we work with writers all along the way. So it's a fully consultative process. But we have two more divisions. We have your book, which is connected to Book Go. And that's for people who have stories to tell, but aren't writers themselves. They can come and hire us, and we'll write it for them and work with them. And we will do things other ghostwriting companies don't do. We will actually publish that book and market it for them too. Wow. So we have a couple of your books in the works. And then we've got Your Flick, which is our film division, because one thing publishers don't do is pay attention to movie rights or film rights or streaming rights much, because that's not in their wheelhouse.
Right.
But I've both worked a lot in the film and television industry, and we know it. So we said, well, give us a year, and we put it in every writer's contract. They can take it or leave it. And we'll try to sell your book to a streamer or to a documentary filmmaker or production house or television or a film company or whatever. And we have reps on our team that do that. So we've got three distinct divisions to Book Go, and we just launched in November. So
that is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. And
maybe this will all make sense a bit more if I tell you that, in fact, Michael and I have been together 30 years. So we're a married couple as well as a working together couple, editors and writers and producers. So
you're still together. So wow.
Yeah.
That's 24/7, Amy.
I'm sorry, that's very impressive. And I like how you have the separate divisions, because I know for a lot of authors, it's very difficult to find not just a publisher, but one who would do their marketing for them.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I have clients that are authors, and I do everything from editing to promoting. Of course, I always review their work, and sometimes I help with their covers and things like that, or even help them use it like a DIY for publishing their work for them, because they don't want to do it. But it's and I have some that were working with a publisher. I recently had a client who told me that he was working with this publisher, which I helped him find, which now I feel terrible about, that everything was fine until he disagreed with the way the book cover was. And when he disagreed, then he started getting froze out.
Oh boy.
He finally was he had 2 books with them, and he finally had, he got his rights back. So I'm helping him, republish those books. And it was like the first time from that publisher that I've heard of a complaint. And then I'm like, well, maybe the other authors aren't, they don't want to speak up, they don't want to say, no, I don't want that cover, or, whatever the issue is, maybe they don't want to disagree because they don't want to lose the fact that they have a publisher.
Yeah.
That's what I think's going on. And well, I think one of the reasons Michael and I are so drawn to and loving having our own publishing company is because we are writers, because we are editors. We understand it's a creative process. So it's a discovery. It's a conversation. It's if you disagree, then, we have creative options. We'll move on. We'll understand, as opposed to, okay, you don't like the cover and you're out.
Yeah. It's something that we deal with. We know how publishers have dealt with us, and we try to deal with writers differently than that. As we we as writers want to be dealt with. And I think, your client is right. I mean, books are judged by their covers. That's the first thing you see. And if you're not happy with the cover of the story you've told, you need to get it to a place where you are happy with it, and I think that's one of the problems we found in publishing that we are trying to redress.
I think too that, and I know I do this if I'm creating a cover, I am with the author all the way, I give them samples, show them that.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do is I read the book so I know what the story is about. And sometimes I can help the author figure out, what do you want to put on the cover that kind of tells a little bit of the story. Because if you don't know what the story's about and the author just says, yeah, well, it's about this man who kills somebody and now he's on the run, that's, it's, there's a lot of ways that you could actually put that. But I like it when publishers are, they are involving the writers. I mean, publishers wouldn't be in business if somebody wasn't writing a book.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I agree. And I think it works, for us, that we are engaged with our writers and we can, create those kind of covers. We read those stories. We're editing those stories. We're very involved with what the writers created. So I have to say our covers are all the more powerful for it because they reveal, the story, the character. We're imbued with the life of the book, and so is the cover.
Although one of the most fun covers we had to do recently was the one for Chuck's book, Come Up Big. Our founder, the guy we founded the company with, Chuck Wardell, because he worked in the Nixon White House. And on one snowy February afternoon.
Wait, was it at a very particular time in the life of the White House?
Yeah, Watergate's happened and all the rest of it. There was nobody in the White House, and the Oval Office was empty, and the White House photographer was around. So Chuck went in and sat at the desk in the Oval Office, and the White House photographer said, the CIA, the Secret Service are going to come up, and Chuck said, well, then take a picture quickly. And so the White House photographer did, and that's the cover of Chuck's book. And you look at it, you think, what president? Oh, that's not that's the guy who wrote the book, So it's a perfect cover. And it was Chuck who provided it to us because he was there and had the picture taken.
That is cool.
So.
And on the back is a picture of him in his office today.
Yeah, we mirrored the picture cover he lives in Florida. So we went to Florida and had a photographer take his picture, which mimicked the one on the cover, but it's a fun kind of, flip flop. You look at the one on the front.
That is really cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. It's pretty, you seem like you've had experience with other publishers and you take the things that you don't like and, or things that happen that maybe, and then you try to make them better for writers. And I think that's very important. Authors are struggling, and
we know.
And I do my best to help them, and I will do work for them based off their budget because sometimes they can't afford a lot.
Yep.
So, and then I always throw in some extra stuff too. But I don't sacrifice, the quality of the work that I do for them. It's just, the price. I gotta charge because it's my time, but, I've done things for authors just for free, just to help them out a little bit,
Yeah. We're the same with your book, but with BookGo, we pay the authors in advance. So, and the advance for every author is the same. It's $5,000. So it's a small advance, half in signing, half with on publication. And everybody's fine with that because of the other stuff that goes with it. The consultation all the way along, the marketing, the sliding scale of royalties that goes upwards and so on and so forth. So we find writers are very generous in their reception to what we're offering as well. And we're greatly appreciative of that.
Wow. I think I'm with the wrong publisher myself.
Well, come on over it.
I'm going to take a look.
And we can also use more editors. There just aren't enough editors out there.
No, there's not. And there's not a lot of editors, the ones that are out there. And I've heard stories from authors saying they've paid tens and tens of thousands of dollars for an editor. And I'm like, how many pages is that? Like, they're like, oh, it's only, like 100,000 words. And I'm like, for $10,000?
Yeah.
I've read longer books for that. And,
Yeah.
I ask them what their budget is. Some people can pay the full price. I do $3 per page at 1.2 spacing. I don't charge for the double spacing.
Right.
And if they can't fit that, then I'm like, okay, what can you afford? And then that's how I work it out with them. I just,
That's very reasonable.
Yeah.
That's very reasonable, Amy.
By page or by the pound. I think that's terrific.
Yeah. It's
I mean, I know what it's
Nancy's
like to not be able to afford a high price editor or whatever. And I think that, you both are also seeing what authors need, because sometimes they just need that reassurance that they're doing what they're doing is right. And I've had authors saying, I can't do this anymore. And it's really, they just need to be talked down because, it's their passion. If they weren't so frustrated, then, about not being able to write, then that, it is their passion. It's part of who they are. If they're not frustrated and they just move on, then, whatever they wrote is okay, one and done or whatever.
right.
Yes, I think that their level of frustration is an indication of their passion, and it just makes me all the more excited to work with that writer, and that they have someone who's reflecting back as the reader does. I mean, that's one of the most important parts of the books, is that it's read. There's someone on the other side. There's someone to receive it and says, yes, I get it. This is wonderful. This is powerful. Okay, maybe I didn't understand this part, but the editorial part, the development part of the book is, it's essential. It's what gives a book its best and biggest life.
That's true.
And you're right. You're right about the desire of people. If you've got a story to tell, you want to tell it, And we're told on one hand that it's never been easier to tell a story these days. And yes, that's true in a way. You can pop it up on Mr. Bezos' site and, and take it from there.
Yep, we're not supposed to swear. We got it.
Yeah. But we have a book coming out this spring written by a guy I bumped into at an event in New York City where we live, who I hadn't seen for a long time, and he's a writer, and I said, "What are you writing?" He said, "Well, his publishing company kicked him out because they went bankrupt, and they gave him all his books back."
Oh,
and I said, "Well, nice to run into, because we can help you." And so we're working with him now. He's doing a book on college admissions for kids. And I can't say more than that at the moment, but it's coming out in the spring and we'll be talking about it. But I know he'd love to come on your show because he's a great guy.
Definitely. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And anytime you have an author that has, a release coming out, cause even I do pre-recordings, but I'm booking into, March and April now for appearances. So,
that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect timing.
You want to send somebody over, and I might be able to schedule their appearance around their book release. I can't always do that, but sometimes I can do that. So
that's great because it's coming out in May. So we'll put him in touch. Or we'll work it out with you through him. But I love this guy, and he'd love you. So.
We can say his name, right?
His name is Richard Major.
Yes.
Dr. Richard Major.
Oh.
And he's also a minister. It's very interesting.
He's a very interesting guy. Yeah, he did his DPhil at Oxford, which is where we met.
And it's where he is now.
And it's where he lives now.
Oxford, England.
Oxford, England. Yeah, not Oxford, Mississippi. And he he then became a Church of England priest, and he got married and had kids, and then he converted to Catholicism, and now he's actually a married Catholic priest. So
wow,
he's a really interesting guy.
I'm sure.
And so writing is.
And so is his writing, and he's very academically sound. I mean, like, he knows of what he speaks. You know, he's been teaching kids around the world forever, and well, not
that's
forever,
wonderful.
long time. So he's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah,
that's
we've got
wonderful.
others for you, Amy.
Yeah, and do you, if you ever happen to have also authors of children's books, send them my way too. Because because I have a segment on the second Sunday of each month, and it's called Storytime for All Ages, and it's where I will talk about a children's book, or I'll have an author on who writes children's books, and I always talk about how important it is for adults to read children's books. And I think it not only, reminds them of, a time when they were a child, or maybe it reiterates some kind of morality or just educational that they forgot because they're not a kid anymore. But also promoting literacy because, if a parent doesn't read or doesn't read very well, reading children's books could help them improve their reading. And then also their child will grow up knowing how to read.
Amy, you've got me there. I was like, children's literature and YA is my great love. And I've worked in children's literacy. I would volunteer at libraries and do a program where I'd work with kids and they'd make their own book in about an hour or two. It would be a bit of a cut and paste session, but we called it Booked, and I thought it was quite wonderful and successful, and the kids went home with a book, and they were an author, so they really had an inside view of what writing is about, what writing can do, and they would go back as an approach to literacy. They would go back to their reading with a greater understanding of what goes into a book and what literacy is about and what it's for.
And then a direct application of that, our own daughter, who's now a college senior, was surrounded by books from the moment she appeared in the world.
Right.
And we'd read to her all the time, and now she's the publisher of her college magazine.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's remarkable. And my mom was a writer, but she just wrote stories to read to us as kids.
Right.
And I always loved to read. I was telling stories before I could even write. And then once I could write, and it was like forever. When I was 4, my mom called me her little storyteller just because I would make up stories, or I would rewrite the stories that I would read, like The Three Bears. I'd give it a different ending and things like that. And I always found it so important. I had a great uncle who, I wasn't very close to him. He was my grandmother's brother. And I remember being like 9 years old, and he had come over to visit, and my mom had told me before that he didn't know how to read at all. He signed his name with an X.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I was like, I couldn't grasp that. Here I'm 9 years old, and I couldn't I still can't grasp that, the fact that he could not read, because even if you would think a few words or something, I'm like, then how did he drive? I mean, this is the late 70s, but I'm like, I just couldn't understand that. And then it was like, it always stuck in my head that people need, they need to read just to live. They don't have to, if they're not like a deep reader where they're going to, read book after book after book, that's one thing, but I think that people should learn how to read. And,
high schools should crack down more, and maybe they are doing it, but I know kids that graduated high school and they read at maybe a 5th grade level.
Yeah. It's true.
I hear that and I fear that because, if you can open a book, you open a world.
Yeah.
And the more books you open, the more people you connect to, the more ideas. And, I think one of my favorite science facts is that people who are well read live longer. It's, makes for a good long life.
I think I'm going to read, then I must read I'm going to live forever then. But yeah, no, I completely understand.
I'll be there with you, Amy.
Okay, no problem. No, I completely understand that. My father was, he was a genius, literally a genius, and he would read, and then on certain subjects, he'd go to school for certain subjects, and then he'd read all about, and then he'd like, okay, I know all I need to know, and then he'd move on. And as adults, we were swapping books and buying each other books and stuff like that. And he has end-stage dementia now, but I cherish those moments with my dad where we would talk about the book that we were reading and sharing the information. We also swapped vinyls too, so and that was fun. Music and books. And when I homeschooled my twin sons for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and they used my father as a resource. So he was like our version of Google. And if he didn't know it, he would either buy a book, look to see if he had a book on the subject, or he'd go to the library to find out. And, I think, with electronic ones, but yeah, I mean, he had nothing, no technology except a smart TV, which he couldn't figure out how to turn on. He was very smart, but, there are simple things that he thought he should, learn more about other things than how to turn on his TV. So I set up his TV so all he had to do was press a button and there he went.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
That's great.
I am so glad you guys have been, you're on this show, and I'm very honored to meet you two. And send me the information about your, your website and your publication, your publishing company, and
sure.
I'll make sure that's in the description of this episode. And anytime you want to send somebody my way, let me know. Or
we will do that.
They can go just like you did, book it on my website or whatever. Or if my availability doesn't match what theirs are, I make exceptions
Great.
Time zones and stuff like that. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh,
thank you. It's been
such a pleasure. Thank you.
Great pleasure to meet you, Amy, and we look forward to resuming the conversation.
Yes, many more books to come.
It's the end of another great conversation, and thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you wish to be, if you wish to be a guest on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.
Tune in here again next week for another tantalizing discussion. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast.